Hey everyone, welcome back. Cleve here from the Rent a Chair Academy and Micro Salon system. And in this tutorial, we're going to go through, going to cover two things. What you'll need to know before you embark on making the transition from the traditional salon business model to the new micro salon structure. I'll also share a few critical tips and tricks when dealing with existing staff, and most of all, how to deal with apprentices. This is a big one, so pay attention here. So let's kick off this with a discussion on the three business or primary business or basic business models. So, okay, you've made the decision to turn your salon into a micro salon, but many of you may have a ton of anxiety just thinking about how on earth are you going to make that shift, right? And I know it was a big one for me. In fact, if I wish I'd done it earlier. However, firstly, and to reduce any anxiety, the micro salon business model is not mutually exclusive. So, what I mean by that is not all micro salons are created equal. You see, it's all up to you. And for the first time in your entire probably business life, this is your call. You can truly build a business model that suits you. What I mean by this is you don't have to rush into this and switch out your entire salon and change the entire business structure. While I did, but I was sort of almost forced to, this approach may not really be for you. So you have options. In fact, you have as many options as you like. But first, let's look at the four most obvious and sort of the obvious overarching possibilities. And keep in mind, I've operated all four of these, and only two, three, and four, which I'll go through with any sort of life-enhancing results. Anyway, the model number one is the traditional salon model. That's the wages, award, etc. Nothing changes here. It's pretty much what you got, okay? If you're making a few dollars but don't like the lifestyle, then the model, this sort of second model, may be sort of more appealing. So the second model is you decide to operate both the traditional model while sort of sprinkling in one or more or a few solo salon stylists, sort of chair renters. Now that's up to you too. Or the third model, which is the exclusive micro salon rent-a-chair sort of business model. And this is the all or nothing model, right? So you don't have any employees, you no longer operate the traditional employer-employee sort of model or contracts with those people, okay? The fourth model is you alternate between all of the other three, okay? So depending on the market, you and your lifestyle, you could easily alternate between all of them. So the good news is they kind of all work. However, if you're introducing this into a traditional existing salon model, your success hinges on how you collectively, amongst you and your crew, incorporate the organizational change within your salon environment, pre and post making the switch. So be careful not to jump the gun. If you have a top quality stylist and you decide to operate the traditional sort of, if you decide to operate like the tradition and the micro salon in the same environment, then be sure to sort of let them know that you fully intend to operate both business models. That's probably what I'm sort of trying to get out, and sort of make them feel like they're part of this new venture. The last thing you want to do is want your existing team to feel threatened and suffer from sort of any form of job security. So what I'm trying to say is if you're really going to try and do the both and do this sort of blended environment, just make sure that they're part of it and they understand it. And if you're going to keep that existing stylist working on the employer-employee sort of scenario. So the more welcome you make them feel to stay as they are, the other way to look at it is the greater chance you'll have them wanting to move over to the micro salon deal at some point in the future. So they'll have an opportunity to see it. So, I think it's a better thing. They can kind of almost try before they buy, and they can see that this is working for other people. And then they'll go, you know what? I'm in. Let me do this thing that you're doing with the other people. So just plug away and let things fall into place. No real sort of great rush. Now, in case of operating both models in tandem, do your best at first to switch one or a small percentage of your existing staff over to being a solo stylist. So this will minimize any disruption to the regular running of the salon, as your stylist already know like the salon systems and procedures and kind of how you operate in essence. So that sort of stays the same. It all minimizes any ability to attract sort of other stylists or other solo stylists. So it's a way to easily attract new people to the salon, because let's face it, if the business model is actually working, people are loving it, your ability to attract from outside into that is going to be a lot easier. So now, special note on termination is, first, seek the advice here, because I'm no industrial relations lawyer. In fact, I'm no anything but just a stylist or a salon owner like you. So please do that. For those stylists that wish to make the transition to your new micro salon structure, they must first voluntarily resign. Okay, I can't stress that enough. But you go get some sort of legal counsel on that. But whatever you do not terminate a staff member who's interested and has only verbally shown interest in this new structure. Like that, you're just going to set yourself up for a fall. So once you've informed them of the opportunity and you've spoken, negotiated their deal and contracts, they, upon their own doing so, must voluntarily resign. So do this with the mindfulness that it deserves, because the last thing you want to do is end up in an unfair dismissal claim and have your hands tied, because you'll just be absolutely screwed from that point onwards. And then it'll just send a message outside of this sort of business sort of community that, and that's, the message it'll send. You don't want to be sending that message. So be certain to contact the appropriate industrial relations officer and or your workplace agreement consultant if you have one, and your accountant or lawyer prior to making these sort of types of critical decisions when shifting any existing employees over to working for themselves. Now, so the other one that I get asked often is what happens with apprentices. Now, the short answer is if you have them, they have to stay, unless you're closing down and reopening as a micro salon. So if you're going, like if you're doing the all or nothing, because you wouldn't be able to close it down and then have some people on salary or wages come over. Like if you are closing it down for whatever reasons and that business is no longer existing, once again, get advice on this. And for whatever reasons, I know that you can get out of employment contracts for apprenticeship contracts for certain reasons, and you need to go and find out what they are. But some of them, financial is one of them, and or of course, bankruptcy or maybe a Part 10 or whatever. So let's hope you're not going down that road. But so please do that. Your renters themselves, your solo salon operators, may have their own apprentices, and that's fine. That's actually up to them. And of course, they're encumbered by any state hairdressing award as a result. So, I hope that helps. It's something you need to tackle mindfully and really create like a plan. More than happy to help you advise there. But as I said, I certainly aren't legal counsel, so I'd suggest go and get that first. So in this next tutorial, we're going to go into the pre-game number 4, and here you'll learn how I managed to pull off the impossible by getting the system approved across each state of Australia in with the industrial relations and so forth, and basically getting Australian tax office approved. So let's get into that.